Welcome into Kicking It, everybody. We're going to, right off the top, acknowledge the biggest story in Cyclone Land. We're not going to talk about today. It's the biggest story in Cyclone Land is the Iowa State women, whatever happens tomorrow. So we're recording this on Monday. It's going to be released on Wednesday. We don't know what happens between, they just got done thrashing Oklahoma like an hour and a half ago.
I know what happens. Iowa State wins 73-68 over Texas.
And Audie Crooks has how many points?
26.
Okay.
23, actually.
Okay. Feel the wind. Just anyway, so we acknowledge the biggest story in Cyclone Land. We are not going to talk about. So don't come at us sideways. It would be outdated by the time we record it because the more important game is the championship game, which happens in the future between recording and release. So for that, tune into all the coverage in Cyclone. It's stuff's going to pop into your feeds, and we will talk about it. Don't you worry. So with that, like I said, this is Kicking It. Here, I'm Jeff Woody here with Grant Mahoney. We are brought to you by Kelderman Manufacturing. Excuse me. You'd think that after the dozens of episodes that we've done that are brought to you by Kelderman, I would be able to actually say Kelderman Manufacturing without tripping over my tongue.
You're just so excited to dive into it.
I just can't. The amount of laser cutting that I just need to get done.
Manufacturing.
Anyway. So we'll run through a couple things today, and I'm gonna learn Grant some things on wrestling because big weekend for Iowa State in wrestling. But we're gonna start with the other weekend stuff that happened, just because I don't know. I was watching basketball all weekend. Did you watch the Illinois State or the Indiana State Drake game?
Great game.
Aiden, we were talking about this before. We'll just make the case right now. I think Indiana State should get in to the tournament. And I know this is an Iowa State podcast feed, and we're all like pro Big 12, definitely pro Big 12. But if you were to have Indiana State's resume and stack them up against a team like Cincinnati, I would argue that Indiana State is a better fit to actually get in, right? So read off just some of the numbers for the Indiana State resume to talk about actually getting in.
So 27-6 overall, not bad.
That was 28-6. They were.
I don't think so.
Anyway, 27-6.
Anyway, quad 1-4, not great.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So actually, let's do this. So their quad 1 games that they've played, Drake 3 times. So there's 3 games against Drake that they are 1-2. They split the regular season home and home, and then they lost in that heartbreaker for those, or not heartbreaker, that just really close game. So 3 of their quad 1 games came against Drake. Like I said, 1-2. So they're 1-4 against quad 1s. The other 2 quad 1s that they played were at Alabama and at Michigan State. Those are the only 2 games. So they didn't host. They hosted 1 quad 1 game. 1. And they won that game against Drake. All the other ones were on the road or in the conference championship game. And so, yes, they're 1-4 in quad 1, but it's, again, at Alabama, at Michigan State, at Drake, against Drake in the championship. Anyway, continue.
Quad 2, 4-1. Solid. Quad 3 and quad 4 combined 22-1.
So that's what I'm like. And again, you won 27 games, and 6 of the 6 losses, 2 are Drake, 1's Alabama, 1's Michigan State, all of which on the road. Like, so they have 2 losses that are, I don't know, sort of questionable-ish. Compare that against any team in the country. Like if Indiana State doesn't get in, then I feel like that. I mean, it's not like it's a make or break for the tournament. The tournament is going to be great regardless. But like you just talk about, I don't know, the fun of the tournament is the fact that like University of Maryland, Baltimore Coast might beat Virginia, in one of those style games. And Indiana State has the potential to do that.
Well, and they're also one of the best offenses in the entire country, which we saw who they're playing. I mean, they played, 23 teams in quad 3 or quad 4. So they
just smoked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they played who's on their schedule. That's all they can do. And
yeah. And if right now, I mean, Iowa State, they had a trash non-conference, and it was talked about like the SVP thing that, the Big 12 is stacking with worse teams, just beat the shit out of the bad teams because then it makes your net better. And then when you get into conference and whatever, that might be true. But regardless, would you want to play Drake or would you want to play Indiana State? Or
no.
Bradley is the team that was 3rd in that conference. Would you want to play Bradley? Like, no, you don't want to play them, especially because now, granted, the transfer portal is a little bit different, but historically, those teams are always going to be really old and really well coached. And so if you're a team like Iowa State that has to bring in like 2 or 3 new faces, like primary new faces every year. The only time you're going to schedule them is in November. So you're playing against an old, experienced, talented team that can shoot in November when you're not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not a part of the selection committee this
Wait,
year.
wait. I thought you were.
This year I'm not.
Come on, man.
But I would rather. So Indiana State is 28-6. I would rather a 28-6 Indiana State make it into the big dance than a TCU, which I don't know what their record is, but it's not that good. But obviously TCU is in the Big 12. They're 20-11, so it's decently respectable. But I think TCU is one towards one of the bottom Big 12 teams
or Texas.
That's projected to make it into the tournament. Which again, they play in the Big 12, and so that's good for them. But Texas is also 20-11. I think Indiana State's deserving, and it stinks that the MVC is a one bid conference because Connor Ferguson will tell you it's a 2-bid conference at least, which it is. I think at least 2 teams, and it's bogus that Drake won the tournament and the automatic bid. Yes, but Indiana State won
the regular season.
I think both teams are deserving, and they should. If there's any year to make an exception, this is the year.
Yeah, I feel like just make an exception this year, and that's also kind of the fun thing. Like, so our daughter now is about 3.5 months ish, and so she's starting to get to the point where she's like wants to do stuff, like look around, like pick stuff up, kind of whatever. So she's like more engaged, which means you can't just put her down and go do whatever you want. Like as long as she's within eyeshot, like keeping your face out of the pillow. Good job, girl. But like now you actually have to entertain her. So this weekend, I got her to sleep. And so this is for all the parents out there. You're going to appreciate this. This was primo. So she needed to take a nap. A little bit fussy, not super fussy, just a couple little baby barks, like one of those. And got her to fall asleep while I was sitting in the comfy chair in the living room, remote really close, and got to watch the entire basketball game, the Drake and Indiana State game, the entire thing with her asleep. The whole thing. That was a solid 2-hour nap. Got her to sleep in the comfy chair in the living room. So it was like the first basketball game that I've been able to watch live, start to finish in like a month. So I was
wondering why you're texting us live.
I know.
Real time.
I didn't watch it. I didn't have to watch it on a replay. It was great.
Yeah. No, that was a great game. And I was building shelves when I was watching it. So
fun.
Yeah, I was on my floor. Just building stuff, just doing manly shit. And Drake was up,
and stuff.
Drake was up a ton.
They're up 17.
Yeah, they're up a bunch. Won some money on that game, so it was nice. But then they came back. I think Indiana State tied it up.
Yeah, they tied it up with, I think, 6-ish to play.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man, they're going to come back and do this thing, which I kind of thought, we'll talk about the women a little bit. I kind of thought Oklahoma was going to make a run like that, but nope.
Audie Crooks is just too good. And again,
dog.
It's out of date. But the Oklahoma game, that was just an absolute shit stomping. That was great. I also wanted to start with games that were fun to watch because the men's game on Saturday was not fun to watch.
No, it wasn't. They needed that. Kansas State needed that win more than Iowa State did. So hats off to you guys. You haven't beaten Iowa State in like an entire calendar year. So
in anything.
And Iowa State has a chance to get revenge if they can beat Texas. If Kansas State can beat Texas on Wednesday, Iowa State will play them on Thursday.
So the tournament starts Thursday. Let's actually just go Iowa State, or starts Wednesday. Iowa State's tournament starts Thursday. Does it start Tuesday? Isn't there 2 playing games? Like the very first, like the West Virginia versus.
Yeah. There's.
You're right.
Basically, the first 4 are tomorrow night.
The booty cheeks are tomorrow night.
The pigtails for the pigtails.
The perineum is
Oklahoma
tomorrow night.
State versus UCF tips off at 11:30, and West Virginia Cincinnati tips off at 2:00.
And then
on Tuesday,
the next set of games is the next pigtail. And then the next set of games after that is when Iowa State plays.
Correct. They have a double bye. So then the Wednesday games would be the winner of Oklahoma State UCF, I think, will play BYU, and then Oklahoma TCU, Kansas State Texas. Iowa State will play the winner of that. And then Kansas will play, I think, the winner of West Virginia Cincinnati. Those games are all on Wednesday. And then Iowa State plays Thursday at 6:00.
So regarding that, the natural, past 3 weeks of Iowa State's offense, or Iowa State's basketball, Iowa State's men's basketball, the offense has gotten worse, kind of objectively.
The boys are gassed.
Statistically gotten worse. As a casual fan and someone who, I don't know basketball well enough to know like the intricacies of like, oh, here's the X's and O's as to why these things aren't working. But it feels like when you don't have as much lift in your legs, you don't have as much confidence in your shot. And if you don't have as much confidence in your shot, you don't have as much confidence to get to the spot where your shot is. And so the offense becomes disjointed because it all falls back to the fact that if I don't truly believe that my shot's going to go in, then I feel like I'm better off setting a screen than trying to miss a shot. Like that, it's not necessarily a confidence thing, like I can't make the shot or I can never make the shot. It's just the fact of like right now, in the state that I am in, I don't think that I'm going to make it. So then when you have multiple of those guys who are being less aggressive than they otherwise should be, then that's when the offense starts to get a little bit clunky. So to me, that's what it feels like, is it all comes back to heavy legs and a lack of confidence because of those heavy legs, which then gums everything else up. But I don't know. That's just me as like I said, an outsider. I wrestled growing up, and I just watched enough basketball to kind of pick up on some of it.
I played a little hoopy ball growing up.
Shooty hoops?
Shooty hoops.
Dribbly ball.
Yes. I think it's a combination of a few things that I think Gilbert and Taman are both not injured. They're hurt. They're
because Taman's shoulder's still not 100%, and then Keyshawn's legs just look heavy.
I think Keyshawn's dealing with a knee thing. I'm not sure he should have played last game, but I'm hoping.
You know what sucks? Just random like side tangent. The fact that those games weren't flipped. Jeff Scripes is that those games weren't flipped. And it's not like you can retrospectively like, hey, it would be better for Iowa State if Houston and Kansas played first. Because if Houston had played Kansas and what happened, which is that Houston absolutely just
Kansas' worst loss in 25 years.
Living hell out of Kansas. Well, at that point, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. You're in the 2 spot regardless. Like it's a road loss. If you punt that one away and you sit Keyshawn, you sit Taman and Jackson and Jiggy, you're running the point. Like if that's the case, then you can rest the guys that kind of need some rest. But when that happens before and you don't know what's going to happen to Houston, if you punt it and then Kansas pulls off the upset, you're like, oh man, we could have had that. So I don't know. It would have been nice if that was flipped, which is why I would imagine they didn't let those guys rest, because you could still get a regular season conference title, which matters.
Yeah.
But if the time slots of that were flipped, then I feel like the strategy would have changed.
I think there's a few things going back to what you're saying about heavy legs, though, that I think that is true with the style of defense Iowa State plays. It's hard to stay fresh. You know, imagine being in a squatting position. Do a wall squat for a minute. Give yourself 10-second rest. Do it for another minute. 10 second rest. Do it for another minute. Like those legs are getting heavy. I also think with Momcilovic that he's kind of hitting a freshman wall that, you know, in high school you're not playing this many games this consistently.
And you might be at the top of the scouting report when you're in high school or even AAU ball, but teams aren't able to execute that defense at the level that other Big 12 teams can.
Yep.
And once you are at the top of the scouting report, or even once it's been figured out, even if you're not the top, I would imagine Taman is the top. Like you got to contain Lipsy, make sure he doesn't control everything and whatever. But Milan's got to be up there too. And once that happens, yeah, you don't play 30 games, 35 games in high school. You also aren't going to be guarded by a super athletic 6'7" forward every single week.
Yeah. So there's a few things that, you know, I'm going to talk about Milan here in just a second, but Watson also got a concussion in that game, which is why he
got elbowed in the face.
Oh, I can imagine that.
That was right across the temple.
Like, ooh, bad spot.
Yeah,
bad spot to get elbowed there. So he's got a concussion.
Is there a good spot to get elbowed? Butt cheek. Like it's like in baseball, you want to get hit in the cheek. You'd rather get hit in the cheek than the spine.
What do you feel like?
Knee pit.
The knee pit. Oh no, that would. Oh my god, could you imagine have a bruise in the backside of your knee? Like the little bruise? the antipatella region is what that's called. Like if it bruised,
I think maybe like in like your
like
side rib, but below your ribs, but still kind of your
like
side abs
between
like your oblique
area, your ribs and your hip.
What'd be the worst place to get elbowed?
I mean, right in the nose.
That's what I was going.
Tough.
Right in the nose on the way up.
What do you think getting elbowed in the perineum feel like?
Not good. Not good. I imagine you'd well, it would you'd have it almost like it's almost like
next week on Kickin It.
It's almost like on we're gonna find out
live on YouTube.
I feel like it'd be like a skunk where like you almost have like an instant defense mechanism. Like if you do get elbowed in the perineum, whoever does the elbowing is gonna leave. Like
we're gonna find a new body function out of this.
Anyway,
we'll find a sponsor.
Anyway,
so Watson had a concussion, so hopefully he is good to go by Thursday. If not, though, again, if Iowa State plays Kansas State, I want everyone to play, so you can just beat the shit out of them.
Vengeful.
Those guys.
You got something against them or something?
No, I don't.
Ducks.
Yeah, but
Shout out
if Iowa State plays Texas, whatever. I don't care if they lose that game. It'd be nice if they win that game, lose the next game versus Kansas or Baylor, and then rest the guys. Rest them for like a week.
It would be nice to get is the Omaha games, are they Thursday, Saturday, or are they Wednesday, Friday?
I think they'd be the first wave of games.
Or sorry, it'd be
Friday,
Friday, Sunday, or Thursday, Saturday. So you want the Friday, Sunday games because I mean it just is another day.
I think the Omaha games are Thursday. I could be wrong. I've been wrong quite often. Like last week, I said Iowa State has an All-American coming in for women's basketball. That's a lie. I was thinking Addie Brown, so I'm a year off.
Hey, you're a big man to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah, you know what?
When I ever am wrong, I'll remember that.
Yes.
Omaha's Thursday, Saturday.
Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. Would be great. Would be great if you get to Omaha.
Yeah, because then the men's
would be great.
The men's tournament, if assuming Iowa State wins on Thursday, the next game would be Friday, correct?
It would be Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday. Those that they're going to give you one day off.
Okay. Yeah.
And so here's the thing: just
about a week off though. If
Right.
they were to win the first game and then lose the second game, it'd be about a week off, which would be the longest they've had off in
a month and a half.
a while. And
Because I think they had
guys could use it.
they had a Saturday stretch when they had the
True.
the single sort of bye week. But yeah, if they went Thursday to Thursday, even Friday to Thursday, it's still 6 days. It's a long time, and especially if it's in Omaha, your travel day is like get on a bus and drive 2 hours.
Right.
So
yeah.
that would
Get
be
in the
nice.
cold tub, take a cold shower.
One. So that I have a thing with the men's team. I was thinking about this morning. I feel like they're the least likely outcome for them is to lose the second round game. Is the least likely. I feel like
You're talking big dance?
Yeah, big dance is when they're the most. I think they're the most likely to advance to the Sweet 16, and then anything beyond that, I don't know. Like it depends on draw and who's there and where you're playing.
Floor,
whatever.
so.
The ceiling is the roof.
That's right.
But I feel like the next most likely is the first, like last week or last year, is the first round exit versus the second round exit. And here's the reason why I say that is because every coach that's going to be in the NCAA tournament is a good coach. They're going to have a good idea on scouting reports. Well, between whenever Iowa State's done or whenever the draw is announced on Sunday, between Sunday and even Thursday, that's a solid 4 days to say, here's what Iowa State's pressure is going to feel like. Here, we're going to rep this. We're going to get an idea. Hey, we're going to have 6 guys in the court. And you know what? Anytime we're just going to run an extra guard out there and we're going to trap everything. So they would have 4 days to prepare and scout. If they win that first game, the next round opponent only has like 20 hours to do that because you really have to recover at least some. Then you can go through maybe a walkthrough the next morning, maybe practice that afternoon, but you want to keep their legs reasonably fresh from whatever game happened first. And then you got to play again on this following day. So you only have like 20 hours. You can't simulate that pressure. So it feels like you're either going to, like, the most likely outcome feels like you win both. The next most likely outcome, I would expect them, I would be less surprised if they lost first. I would be really surprised if they lost their second game. So I feel like if they win that first round matchup, it's not guaranteed, but I feel like the Sweet 16 becomes a lot more of a guarantee or a lot closer to likelihood because of the really quick turnaround from a team that's never seen Iowa State, who has never played against that pressure, who doesn't know what it's like to have Taman and Keyshawn and Kurt Jones out there as aggressive as pressuring as they can with, Robert Jones just like kneeing dudes in the back. Like they don't know what that physicality is going to feel like. So it feels like, I don't know, the draw matter. I think the draw matters a lot, especially in the first round. If it can be in Omaha and you can get the juice from the crowd and you're playing a team that's like a 13 or a 14, it's going to be an at-large team or maybe like the Ohio Valley champion or something like that. Like you're going to be playing a team that you have more talent than, but that's the one that I would be more nervous about the first round than the second round.
Well, I think too that, say they are playing like an Ohio Valley champion or like a high point. Like there's nobody in those lower level conferences, if you will, who are playing the style of aggressive defense that Iowa State plays. So you can practice it all you want in practice and try to simulate it. But until you get to the game and Iowa State's punching you in the mouth and you're like, oh shit, like this is different than practice. I don't think, no matter who Iowa State plays the first round, I don't think they're going to know what to expect or how to respond right away. So I think it's big for Iowa State to get out on top and just really establish the dominance. And obviously it's easier said than done, but get to like a 10, 12 point lead and then just just keep the foot on the gas. So one thing I do want to talk about Milan though is I saw there's 18 conference games, and the first 9, so first half of the conference, he shot 24 free throws and he averaged 12 points per game. So and he was hunting a shot. I think there were some plays in there, and he was a dog. I'm not saying he's not anymore, but last game he was a non-factor. In the second half of conference play, he's only shot 8 free throws
Total.
Ooh, only 8 free throws
in 9 games.
So in 9 games, so it tells me he's not being as aggressive. He's not doing his up and under dipsy doodle, whoop, whoop, and he's only averaging 7 points per game. Yeah. So I'm not saying he's the reason why we're losing. But we need his strength is offense. He's not that he's a liability on defense. He's a freshman, so he's a step slow. But he is Jiggy might be our best shooter right now, but he is our best offensive threat. That fadeaway is nasty, but he needs to get it going in order for Iowa State to make a run in March.
Again, this is there's an old adage, the whole nothing's ever as good as it seems and nothing's ever as bad as it seems.
Yep.
And the sky is falling pretty much never. But when things sort of feel like, oh, this is bad, Iowa State's offense is cratering. One thing that I think a perhaps silver lining or potential, knowing how athletes can work every once, like mentally, is if you're winning ugly, you can always kind of go back to being like, but we're winning. Like you can then say, coaches are telling me I need to get this half a step over. I need to get this extra thing, or I need to go in the cold tub this much more. I need to go into whatever. And it's not like these guys aren't doing that, but there is an extra 0.1%, which really shaves the difference between great and okay. And when you're winning, but winning ugly, then it sort of feels like you can justify the fact that you're not doing as much, whether it's recovery or film study or believing in the shot going in. Like there's something, it is possible. If you've done it once, it's possible to do it again. And so it feels like having a loss when the offense is as inconsistent / bad as it was. The previous 3 or 4 games, the offense has sort of looked ish like that, but they've been able to come away with a win. At UCF, it was pretty similar. Oklahoma, pretty similar, but they were able
back to West Virginia.
Yeah, but they were able to win those games somehow. Where this one, you finally get a loss, and so then Kyle Green goes, "I told you need to get this done. Now you understand why." And so it feels like there could be a little wake up call ish, not in a way that they like need a wake up call, but it reinforces the sharpness that's required, which could potentially be a nice refocusing, as opposed to if they were able to limp that one along, then you can reinforce bad habits because, hey, we won 4 in a row or whatever. We didn't have our best game, but we still won, so we can keep that going. So perhaps there's an athlete's mentality being like, okay, can't do that again. And it finally is a way to sort of shake the cobwebs loose.
Yeah, no, and I agree too, because Kansas State's not a good team. They're not quite parent, but they're booty cheeks. They're in the booty cheek column. But it's good for Iowa State to have that wake up call, because Iowa State's going to play either Kansas State or Texas, which they're both in the booty cheek realm. But then they're going to play either Baylor or Kansas. And I guess where I'm going with this is that losing Kansas State it just kind of told the team that you guys can lose to anybody at any time if you're not showing up. Iowa State went from top 40 offense the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks they were top 40. Now they're around 80, 78.
Well, and I think this is
they're outside of the trap of excellence. So I'm sorry to our listeners, but we're probably going to win the national championship now.
Oh man, no.
Elite Eight's the floor.
But things like, and it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, these guys aren't doing stuff well, but like when you're telling, Milan, hey, you got to hunch a shot, man. You have to pull up and shoot XYZ. If you're open, you've got to hit that.
Pull the trigger,
go. Or, hey, you have this matchup against a 6'4" guard, go. If you're posted up against, this guard, if you've drawn a center out, whatever, like you got to go. But yeah, I mean, coach, we're winning, like in the back of your head, it's not like you're ignoring him, but there's not as much urgency to respond. And so now you can turn the film on and say, hey, here are all the opportunities that we missed, and this loss is the result.
I also think, too, the second half of the Big 12, it's easier to prepare for a team when you've already seen them. You know what to expect defensively. Kind of what just the different quirks that everyone's got. That Keyshawn wants to drive to your right, that Jiggy's going to pull up from the like whatever it is. So I think that also comes into play of why mix that in with the guys' legs getting heavy.
And you have a lot more common opponents. Like It's not like you're repeating. So like that was the first time that not the second time they played Kansas State, but that was the first time they played UCF. It's not like UCF had a one crack like it has been in the past, the Big 12, where you have multiple cracks at a team, where you have the first time through and you have the second time through. But once you get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in the Big 12, you've got common opponents, and the film is really easy because number 26 or 24 for Texas Tech guarded Keyshawn Gilbert this way, and it was successful. So if we guard him this way, it can also be successful because I know what 24's capability is because we saw them, we played them. So the common opponents make it a lot easier for you to get a rationalization on like speed and length and whatever. So I think that's also part of it. And again, all the Big 12 coaches are good. Like as much as you want to, Kansas State was in the Elite Eight last year. It sucks to be complimentary despite what's happened this year, but they were in the Elite Eight last year.
And now they're going to the NIT. Suck on that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
The
last thing I will say before, man, if you want to transition after this, I think defense is going to win them games. And so the offense can be not as great. Hopefully it's not as bad as it has been these last 2 weeks, but the defense is going to carry the Iowa State men to victory. But also, if Iowa State is going to lose, free throws are going to be huge. Free throws and rebounding, I think, are the big things that Iowa State needs to really hone in on in the big dance.
I don't know. Can you change free throws at this point? Like, can you really get better at free throws at this point in the season?
If you're shooting with your right hand and they're not going in, try left hand.
Oh, got it. Yeah, got it. It was just a little bit more or underhand. I still think there should be somebody.
I don't think you need to change your form at this point. That's probably not what I would say.
Just go back to the lab, man.
Back to the lab. Just get shots up.
There's two other sports things that happened this weekend, but before we get to that, fun news with Goldfinch Athletics. We don't have a Goldfinch Athletics interview. We're hiring, so we've got a full-time position available in Ankeny. By the time this comes out, we'll have a webpage. It'll be goldfinchathletics.com/jobs, which you'll be able to go and actually view the thing. So we'll be able to submit whether it's a resume or just contact form. So I won't get too much information about it, but it is a full-time position in Ankeny, 401k match with base salary, but bonus structure on top of it. So if you're interested, goldfinchathletics.com/jobs.
You get a company car, a credit card.
You will get a company car.
Get your mortgage paid
They'll
for.
buy you a house.
It's
not. It's awesome. You want to work at Goldfinch?
Not quite there yet.
Oh shoot.
We don't have not the mortgage. I told you guys not to put the mortgage part on there yet. We're going to work on that. Anyway, goldfinchathletics.com/jobs. Anyway, the other thing before we actually got to Iowa State wrestling, because like I said, I was going to learn Grant some things on wrestling.
Do you have overrated, underrated?
Overrated, underrated. I didn't have one, but right now it's just that I can apply this same thing.
I didn't bring one today.
Overrated, Kim Mulkey. So overrated. I mean, it's hard to be overrated when nobody likes you outside the team you're coaching for.
That's
underrated, and I don't know how this is necessarily, but Don Staley's response to the LSU South Carolina thing. Have you seen the after effect of what that is?
What do you mean by
like
after?
the interviews after what happened in the LSU
South
Carolina game?
I saw that, at the very beginning of the scuffle, Don was just kind of like, okay. And then that big girl for South Carolina came over and shoved the LSU girl to the floor. And Don was like, what the hell are you doing? Basically, she was cool with it. And then that big girl came over and shoved her. Don was like, come on. Like, what are you doing? So like, I saw her response to like, you're fighting. Like, let's be calm here. I didn't see like post game though. And I saw some people talking about it on social media about how like the way she responded to it was very classy and
the way Kim was.
And Kim is just in true Kim Mulkey fashion.
Much not. So here's the best justification. And I don't want to like, I'm sure if you play for Kim Mulkey, it's a fine experience. And it's just really hard because she has always been, at Baylor and now at LSU, and the programs that she's run have had sort of this stigma of, I don't know, unlikability unless you're rooting for them. So, I mean, maybe it is fine if you're rooting for them, but like,
does it start from her outfit?
It's fine. I mean, you can be fashionable. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
But Dawn Staley has better outfits. She wears like
Balenciaga
and stuff.
Yeah,
but
wearing like a bedazzled Snapple jacket.
I mean, fine. What? Oh yeah, the Coca-Cola one.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so much product placement. She had to have gotten paid a substantial amount for that. But anyway, or just straight up Coca-Cola. There you go.
True.
But like the responses. So there was a scuffle. I mean, if you haven't seen it, Google it. You'll see it. And then Don Staley, who's the head coach of USC, the South Carolina, and Kim Mulkey, head coach of LSU, had two diametrically opposed responses to what happened. And so I was running through, so Aaron was feeding our daughter, and I was like, this is the craziest shit that I have seen in a long time in sports. So I was running through all how this happened. So Aaron comes out, she's watching everything happen. And so after the game, and so also like as the players were sort of leaving the court, as you know, all the benches got ejected, everybody. So as everybody's getting ejected, they're sort of like kind of hooping and hollering, high-fiving the fans on the way out, because it's sort of like us versus them, our high, you know, whatever. I guarantee that when each coach got in the locker room is where the difference actually happened, because it's not like neither team was probably like happy that that happened, but frustrated for different reasons. So Dawn Staley's response, what a couple things that she did that I really liked. One is the gal who was shoved down by her player, the LSU player, the guard, went over and like after the game kind of gave her like pulled her in close, like to like, so you just sort of like speaking into her ear because it was really loud in the arena. And you could tell the body language was, I am sorry for what happened. That is unacceptable. And then kind of gave her a hug afterwards. And it seemed like the LSU player accepted the apology. And then in all the post game media availability, she was like, the game got the best of us. The energy and the emotion in that game was physical. It was competitive. It was chippy, and it got the best of us. That's not what we want to say. You know, it was nothing malicious. It didn't go in planned, whatever, but that's not what we're going to do.
Angel Reese was pulling hair.
Yeah. And so was, I mean, South Carolina was doing the same thing. Like they were, it was as chippy as both directions. It was as chippy as it was both ways. But then when we go back to the scene of both South Carolina and LSU's players getting ejected, I forget the gal's name. She's a dominant player. Their post player, the one Camila Cardoza.
Yeah, she's from Brazil, big girl, 6'7".
So Camila Cardoza, she was the one that got ejected for fighting. She has to sit out the first round of the tournament. So she like was sort of like dancing and whatever when she was in there. Then her statement that she put out on social media was, you know, I am sincerely apologize. I accept all responsibility for it. It is not good enough. I will work to, you know, I will be better in the next situations. And so Dawn Staley's response of, it got the best of us, ain't going to happen again. When Aaron came out and was watching this, I was like, just you wait until the locker room. Can you imagine the amount of ass chewing that someone like Dawn Staley is going to give that team when she sees that you're sort of dancing after you got ejected for fighting? And then on the other side with Kim Mulkey, when asked about the whole thing, the whole fracas, she said, said that, can you believe that there are only one foul called on each team by the time 2 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter, which is when that scuffle happened was. Can you imagine that was the case? And maybe you think they would have gotten control of the game by then, deflecting responsibility. Then saying, I wish she would have pushed Angel Reese, not pushing a guard, deflecting responsibility. That was one of the things.
Almost encouraging
escalation of the thing. So which of those two teams is going to have this situation happen again? And that's not fair to, I mean, so Jacqueline, we were talking about it ahead of time. Jacqueline's in the room and we were saying it's not fair to Angel Reese because she's just a competitive person in the same way that like any men's basketball program play, like Hunter Dickinson, kind of a dick on the floor. So Hunter Dickinson doesn't get the same hate that Angel Reese does. And Kim Mulkey didn't do Angel Reese any favors by saying, wish it would have pushed Angel Reese because she would have whooped her ass. Like, okay, well, that doesn't do a great thing for your player in that. And then Angel Reese also, when she was in her post-game availability, was saying something to the effect of, we're competitive. We're not going to back down from it.
We're not afraid of South Carolina.
We're not afraid of South Carolina.
I'm going to say it again. We're not afraid of South Carolina.
And which, again, she wouldn't have responded that way if she was in Dawn Staley's room, because Dawn Staley would have said, enough. We are not going to do this again. The initial response when everybody got kicked out was that everybody on the bench was going to have to miss the next game, which is the first game of the NCAA tournament. They were that close to having 6 players suspended for the entire first round of the NCAA tournament. That close. And you're celebrating that and blaming the referees and saying you wish you would have had a bigger, should have shoved a bigger team. To me, like when you're looking at both of those, the way that those response, like overrated, underrated. Overrated Kim Mulkey. I could not, I was extremely disappointed, even more than just like, I don't like her. I was disappointed in the way that she handled that because it wasn't accepting any responsibility for anything that happened, blaming the referees, blaming the girl for the bigger girl for pushing your girl, not saying that we're not going to do that again. None of that happened. It was your fault, point fingers, point fingers, point fingers, point fingers, versus Dawn Staley immediately got in front of the cameras and said, we will be better. That is unacceptable. Our bad. And so I was just, I don't know, that grinded my gears. Not what happened, because, it's annoying, it's bad, but whatever. It's the responses to those two things that happened, which I think is a big delineation between why people like Dawn Staley and really dislike Kim Mulkey.
Well, I feel like too, when you're at college, it's such obviously after college you go out to the real world, and so I think Dawn is doing a nice job of, from outsider looking in. Obviously, I'm not in the locker room, but I feel like she's doing a nice job of coaching those young ladies up with respect and killing them with kindness. Whereas,
she also kills them with some dagger eyes.
Yeah. But
if you've ever watched Dawn Staley on the sideline, she's got some Saban to her.
But I feel like Mulkey is killing them with, hey, when shit gets tough, get combative and kill them with your fists. It's not like maybe to de-escalate and think about it. No, it's go in there with your knuckles and brass knuckles. That's what I was looking for. Your brass knuckles and boom, boom, boom. Punch them out, pull their hair.
I don't know. I just dislike that. Like,
I want Iowa State to face LSU, and I want Audie Crooks to look Angel Reese in the eyes and say, "Meet me on the block, bitch."
No, here's honestly, this is which that would be. I mean, Angel Reese.
Meet me down on the block, bitch.
She's really good at basketball. She's really good at basketball. But here, one thing that just I was talking about, and I sort of just like jokingly talked to her. Again, she's 3.5 months old. Our daughter. I'm not going to say like, "Hey, don't get in a fight," because she doesn't understand words. But I was just sort of talking to her, and I was like, if anyone ever gets in that situation, and you're the one who's shoved, the best possible response that you can have is not backing down, but not throwing a punch.
You told that to your daughter?
Yeah, I did. She doesn't. She'll get it in time.
Just like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Her first words are,
"Did you push her down?"
Yeah, I'm trying to teach her toughness.
No,
okay?
when this happens,
Oklahoma drill.
Line it up. You got the baby helmet ready? Talking about how, like, generally in a scuffle, like if there's something like that happens, who are you going to respect more? Someone is trying to intimidate you, chest bump and shoves and whatever, and somebody who immediately swings back, or somebody who, when shoved, just stands there and looks at that person who's doing the shoving, hands down at their sides, or just not moving, not being intimidated by it, but not escalating the situation in an environment where I feel like that type of sport, when it's safe. If it's like a knife fight, run. But like if it's a sports situation where someone's trying to be tougher than you, the best way that you're going to get the best result is stand your ground, but don't escalate. And like
David Montgomery pulled up his knee pads and squared up with the dude from Baylor.
Yeah, you're not squaring up, but like just that, to me, it feels like someone shoves you, stand there. Just don't respond, don't escalate, but don't back down. That to me is what the response, the best proper response.
Just look him in the eye and say, "Are you okay? What's wrong with you?"
I dislike the actions that you've just partaken in, sir.
Who hurt
or
you?
Madam?
Hurt people. Who hurt you?
It's true. I think there's one other thing. It was just before I was going to get to wrestling.
Was it Audie Crooks talking to Angel Reese about meet me on the block?
Meet me on the block. No, but I think we can get to wrestling then. Lost the point. Completely lost the point. I apologize.
That's listener. Okay. Squirrel. I don't know anything about wrestling, so educate me.
Okay. So Iowa State won the first wrestling championship.
I know what
wrestling team championship
is. That's about it.
Okay.
Pin,
so
leg sweep.
The rules are different. Leg sweeps sometimes lead to pins. But the rules are different this year. And I thought, similar to the baseball conversation that we had, I thought wrestling was more interesting this year because of the 3-point takedown.
So, God, there's so many wrestling rules now.
Well, there's the same amount of rules. It's just they changed up the points and how you get
Dude,
them.
I about fell asleep. We're talking about all the baseball rules.
But anyway, so Iowa State they won their first team title since 2009, which is a big deal, especially because Iowa State's wrestling history, it's kind of gone by the wayside for a bit, but Dresser's done a really good job of bringing it back. And now you felt like Iowa State's been close to being back for a while. We're like, oh, you got David Carr, or you got Panero Johnson or whatever, and they're going to win a Big 12 title here or there. They're going to finish in the top 2 or 3 here or there, but they hadn't outright won a conference title. And teams like Oklahoma State and Missouri have been really good. I mean, Oklahoma State more than Missouri, but have been really good at wrestling for a really long time. And Iowa State finally broke through and won. And now how you score and how you win a conference championship, and same thing with the team championship in the NCAAs, is when you win, you can't lose points for your team. You just miss out on the opportunity of gaining points for your team. So if you win, if you and I were wrestling and you're wrestling for Northern Iowa and I'm wrestling for Missouri, and I beat you, And then I would win 4 points for my team. You win 0 points for your team. So you just total the number of points up. And it's just, if you win by this amount of points, it's worth 4. If you win by 8 to 14 points, it's worth 5. If you win by 15 or more, then it's 6. And it's a pin. It's, whatever. So it's totaled up. So Iowa State, in order to have that happen, you can't just have 1 or 2 guys that are good at wrestling here or there. You have to have a whole team that is successful. Iowa State put 5 guys in the finals. And
5 of 10.
There's 10 weights. And then 5 of them had an Iowa State Cyclone in it, which was the highest of any team.
Yeah.
So there's Oklahoma State had 4. And Iowa State came away with 2 champions. And it was Echemendia and Younger Bastida. So, hey, God bless Cuba. And
Younger's just a man, too.
He's good. And then David Carr lost to Keegan O'Toole. And I think he's only lost to 2 guys in his entire college career. And Keegan O'Toole has been 2 of those losses. So it's a difficult matchup, and they're going to see each other again. But the thing that I want to, the couple things that I want to bring up, Younger Bastida is an absolute monster.
I did watch. I flipped over after whatever game I was watching. Maybe, I don't know, and I did catch the back end of O'Toole Carr.
Okay. For pausing that for a second. The reason why O'Toole and Carr are so good is that because you have to be perfect. Like when wrestling one of those guys, you have to be perfect, because if you take one bad shot, are lazy with your hands one time, if you don't reshot or take a shot, they counter it, and you don't reshoot, or you reshoot and you're in the wrong position. So one time, I think it was in the second period, Jacqueline, when Carr took a bad shot. And I think it was the second period, took a bad shot. O'Toole got him in a takedown, and all of a sudden you're down 3, and taking these guys down at all is hard. So you're fighting from basically nothing. Then very end of it, he got in desperation mode. But anyway, Carr made more mistakes than O'Toole did.
And they've got such mutual respect for each other too. I saw O'Toole's interview afterwards. He's like, we're both men of God. We're both, doing this for him. And there's nothing but respect for him. Like, we'll see each other again. And they, had a moment afterward. But then I saw Bastida.
Right?
Bastida. The guy had, I don't know what the move is, but the guy had his leg up.
Single leg.
He was hopping him. And then,
Bastida.
Yeah, he took the guy down. I was like, whoa, what?
So if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to just Google Younger Bastida Hendrickson Big 12 championship wrestling match. It is insane.
He didn't win Big 12 champ?
He did. So he ended up winning. So Hendrickson was the 2-time defending in Air Force, wrestles for Air Force. Somehow Air Force is in the Big 12. Big 12 wrestling is weird as far as conference. So Hendrickson was the runner-up in the country last year. He was the Big 12 champion twice. And he has, I don't remember what his bonus point percentage is, which basically means for the amount of, if you had 10 wins, if 7 of them, you got extra points for your team because by winning by a larger margin, it's your bonus point percentage. His bonus point percentage is off the charts. Like he kicks the shit out of everybody. Not just,
I feel like David Carr does that too.
Yeah. So, but if he wins, if Hendrickson wins, he's going to win by a lot. It's either going to be a pin or back points, and he's going to win by a lot. So this guy was, and he's also, heavyweights a lot of times get a bad rap because they're kind of fat. Like sometimes they're kind of fat.
A little
thick. THICC, thick. And Younger is not, and neither is Hendrickson. These dudes are built like middle linebackers. They're probably like 6'1", 6'2", like 240, just brick shit houses of muscle.
Plug up the A gap.
And so they're wrestling, whatever. And Hendrickson, because he's so good at shooting, just thought he was going to be able to be aggressive. He got Younger's foot up in a single leg. So his foot's just up in the air. He's on one leg, just bouncing, trying to get his hands down. Early in the first period, Hendrickson sort of got him towards the side of the mat. Tries to go get a takedown. Younger pulls his back leg. So his front leg's up in the air. His back leg just goes straight backwards. Full front splits. Just straight down.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Sack to the ground.
No, I'm talking about the one where he tried to leg sweep him.
So it was, anyway, that was first single leg. Got up there. Just full splits. So you have a dude that's, 6'1", 6'2", 240, freak athlete. Impressive. Doing the splits. Later on in the match, they get in the same position. And Hendrickson kind of got a little bit lazy, but he was still 1 foot up in the air. 1 foot bouncing on the ground. And in that situation, 9 times out of 10, 98 times out of 100, it's going to either be a good result for the guy who's got the control, leg up in the air, or nothing happens and the guy gets his foot down to the ground. 2 times out of 100, the guy whose leg's up in the air is going to get a takedown, And the fact that he did against that dude, he just ends up taking him from standing on one foot, getting him all the way to his back, which because takedowns are now worth 3 points instead of 2, and back points, there's increased back points and it happens faster. It went from being 1-0 where Hendrickson was in the lead to 6-1 like that. And it was such an explosive move that like,
I was impressed. I don't know the rules, but I was like, oh, that was an athletic move right there.
Especially against who he did it against, that was such a huge move. So now Younger is going to be the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, defending national champion.
When does that start?
When does that start? March 21st.
3 days after the portal opens up.
What's the portal?
The transfer portal. If you haven't listened to Williams and Bloom. Bloom says it about 6 times every show.
What is a portal?
The transfer portal.
The portal.
What's up?
Stop it.
I don't know. Is it
Iowa State needs to find a big in the portal this year. Keep going about wrestling.
Is JT Rock gonna?
He's redshirt, man. He should be a senior in high school right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna play next year? There's at least a guy. There's his body.
We're not gonna rely on just one.
You're gonna get a
true.
I was just
redshirt freshman.
just going out the big. I feel like JT Rock's gonna do something. I don't know, something maybe. Anyway, I just wanted to say like the Iowa State wrestling team actually winning the team title and Younger doing what he did. Carr and O'Toole, that's a coin flip the whole time. But having Younger win that against Hendrickson to kind of put the cherry on top of Iowa State winning it, because
that was the last match of the
last match whole thing. Iowa State already had it locked up because they had a 7.5 point lead. You can't get 8 points in anything, so they already had it won going into that. But it was just a cherry on top of the whole thing. And I think just because a lot of people forget the fact that 2 of the and Cyclone Fanatic, y'all probably know this, but for those that don't follow wrestling that closely, Iowa State's wrestling history, despite the fact that Iowa has had more success team-wise because of Dan Gable's coaching, the 2 greatest wrestlers arguably of all time that have ever wrestled in college are Cale Sanderson and Dan Gable. Both of them wrestled at Iowa State. So the history that Iowa State has could make them a team where it is, if you want to be the best, you come to Iowa State. And Dresser's getting them back there. And I'll be interested to see what happens when Carr leaves, because you always have like one like stalwart that's just like, there's who we're going to build our lineup around. And you got guys like Echemendia, you have guys like Bastida, you have guys like Cody Chittum. Like there is a foundation.
Panera will be back next year, though, right?
Will he? Okay, so Panera will be back. He's gonna have to earn his spot. I mean, that's a lot of shape to get back in. It's a lot of trust to earn back.
You can bet on that. He's going to.
Boom. Anyway,
early.
I just had to give like the wrestling shout out, because it hasn't been. I mean, it's on reaction time, but like just them winning a title is huge for the direction of where Iowa State wrestling is going.
Sorry if we just stole your thunder, Jacqueline. Thank you.
If you want to listen more, if you're a big wrestling fan, you probably are already listening to Reaction Time. But if you're not and you want to hear about, you can listen to Reaction Time.
Yes. Yeah, no, that'd be good. I should, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know wrestling.
So wrestling, it's when 2 guys
wrestling
there is a circle.
It's wrestling.
Wrestling.
Sumo wrestling.
Do
they have collegiate sumo wrestling?
No.
That'd be neat.
Some heavyweights order that.
It's so
Colton Schultz is probably your best bet now.
Bad heavyweight wrestling is so boring. It's so boring.
You wouldn't want to see 2 enormous men in adult diapers wrestle.
Well, and it's not adult diapers. It's just
Pertner.
It's a
Pertner.
Have you ever seen a diaper? It's not puffy.
It's like a diaper thong.
I think it qualifies as Pertner.
Partner.
Oh man, it's like 2 grizzly bears that are sort of like fighting over a food source. Like that's
just smash.
But there's like this new wave of heavyweights that are all just
the athletes,
freaks.
Yeah, it's because you then can draw like the guys that are 280 but can't keep up. Like if I'm Younger or Hendrickson or the guy at Penn State's all built the same way, is it like if I know that you're carrying around 25 extra pounds, I'm going to make you
That's not muscle.
That's not muscle. I'm going to make you chase me. I'm going to push you around. I'm going to make you sprawl. I'm going to make you get you out of breath, because I know that I'm carrying around less mass than you and I'm just the same strength. So as soon as you get tired, good luck, buddy.
Grab it by your diaper waist and just
you're going to get shoved into the locker by some wrestling fan at some point somewhere.
Yeah.
Nerds.
It's happened before, so.
Okay. You got anything else?
I don't think I do. Let me check my notes here, Jeff.
Come in with notes.
I do.
Go up in the steel trap up here.
I do. No, dude,
the
way my brain works, man, I'm here, there, and everywhere. So I need to write down notes. When I'm watching the game, I try to take notes.
So I guess last question.
This episode's about half as long as our last one.
I know. I was sorry for that.
Great
it was a great interview. Great episode.
Tim.
Do you want in heart of hearts, do you want Iowa State to make it to the championship game of the Big 12 tournament?
I mean, it would be great if they won a Big 12 tournament championship. But I've got bigger aspirations for them. I want them to do really well in the tournament. And I think in order for them to do really well in the tournament, they need to have a week off. I think the guys are just really gassed. Their legs are heavy right now. I think March is big on matchups, obviously. So who knows? You know, they could get Kentucky in the second round. Kentucky's dangerous. They probably won't, but they could. I think it's all about matchups, though, and I just really think rest is the best thing for Iowa State. They've got the 2 or 3 seed locked up. So would I rather have them lose and get rest, or would I rather have them probably play Houston and just
Another rock fight?
Another rock fight? No, I don't want that. I mean, I want them to be as healthy going into the March Madness big dance as possible. How about you?
Kind of the same boat. A
Big 12 championship would be great.
It's cool.
And I think Iowa State's going to be well represented down there. The fans sounded great today on Monday when the women were beating the hell out of Oklahoma. You know, they're doing the Let's Go State chant. It sounded like it was packed of Iowa State fans. Have to imagine that Tuesday, the championship game, is going to be about all Iowa State fans because Texas won. So it'll be
just one
Texas
like
again. That's who Iowa State beat last year.
True. One like little correlatory stat. It's not the same because it's a different conference, but the Big Ten last year had a lot of teams. They have more teams coming in next year. But for the men's tournament, the Big Ten men's tournament champion winner has had a first round exit for 4 consecutive seasons.
Very nice fact.
So they have this 1,000 teams in a conference, and you have to play a zillion games back to back, and then you got to turn around and go travel and play another team. It is possible. It is beneficial for some, but for a giant conference like the Big 12 now is becoming, it might not be the most advantageous to win that many games in a row for the Big 12 tournament. So,
because I'm kind of torn because I want Iowa State to beat Kansas State or Texas. Then they'll play Baylor or Kansas, which I kind of want a revenge game against Baylor. You know, but then that means they would be in the championship game, and I don't want to play Houston again. Not that I'm afraid of them, but I don't want to play them right now. If we play Houston again, I want to be in the national championship.
Rock fight.
Yeah. So that's all I've got, though. You got anything else?
Goldfinchathletics.com/jobs. Check it out.
There you go. They'll pay for your mortgage.
Nope. It's a good job.
Oh.
I don't want to promise that.
Oh, shoot.
I mean, I guess technically, like we're going to pay you, which would then pay your mortgage, depending on the mortgage payment that you have. As long as you don't have like a $12,000 mortgage
you
payment.
You get a stipend each month for your mortgage.
Nope. It's just a paycheck.
Gotcha.
You get.
That works too.
I mean, it's 401k matched.
That's nice. That's nice.
Anyway.
Sweet. Well, thank you to all of our loyal listeners who are still listening. As always, remember, adopt, don't shop.